Hello, the purpose of this video is to talk to you a little bit about your annotated bibliography assignment. Now, I talked a little bit in the introduction about doing library research and how you find different types of materials, and then you integrate those into your literature review or your secondary research paper. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a pre-step to that actually makes things a little bit easier for you. As you know, every APA style paper or even MLA paper requires that you either have works cited or references. In the APA we call them references. And these are the different scholarly materials and so forth that we gather that go into our literature review. Now understand that in the APA, DVDs, movies, CDs, and personal communications all have a way of accounting for them in not only in-text citations, but also in your reference page, with the exception of personal communications. Because personal communications are not retrievable, somebody can't look those up, so they don't show up in the reference page. But for instance, if you're saying what I told you in a meeting with me in your paper, you would say Roger Bromé, comma, personal communication in italics, and you would have that in parentheses, and that would be your citation of our conversation. Again, this is a way of giving honor to your intellectual heritage and the way that you're bringing together the different voices of the authors and scholars that you refer to into the synthesis and dialogue of your own paper. Now, a dialogue is essentially, different voices talking about something, and so that's what I really want you to think about in terms of when you write up your literature review and things like that, is what voices are saying what and how are they saying it. Sometimes you'll find different pieces of literature that will agree on the definition of something. So they'll say, well, the definition of love is this thing, and somebody else will say essentially the same definition of love, and somebody else will give the same definition of love. And these are all called operational definitions. And sometimes they'll have differences and sometimes they'll have similarities. When you decide for your research project that you're going to define a particular term that is not a concrete thing. Now, what I mean by concrete thing is those things that are governed by time, space, and causality. So what I'm saying is that when we have things like feelings and ideas and concepts, like love or like hate or different things like that, those things have to be defined operationally so that we can use those operational definitions in doing research. And there will be more on that later. I don't want you to really get hung up on that, but essentially what you're doing is you're looking for literature that will help you to define your topic, define your issue, define the sub-definitions within that, and also help you to conceptualize the whole idea altogether. So, for example, post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder is not something that exists in time, space, and causality. It's a psychological phenomenon. And so we know from the symptoms and the feelings that people express that there is such a thing, but that thing, it really exists in ideas and in concepts, not really in the physical real world. And so in order to define PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder over a period of time, different psychological experts and clinicians and things have come together and say, for a person to be said to have PTSD or be diagnosable with PTSD, there has to be certain qualities and certain manifestations of these things, either psychologically, socially, or emotionally. So that's basically what you do, is you go find PTSD literature, and right now, there's a pretty stable definition of those kind of things, but you can also talk about the same thing in terms of anxiety or stress and those kind of things. Those things are all definable as concepts, not really as something that exists in the world prior to our experience or that's a physical thing. Okay, enough with that. So you go to the library and you find literature, whether it be journal articles or books or what have you, to try to orient and shape your own research project. And so what you'll do is you'll find things relevant to those definitions and to those concepts that will help guide your research. And in doing that library research, most of the time you can do a lot of that research on what we call the invisible web, or exclusive databases. These are internet databases that require certain access, and you can have access through them when you sign into the library website with your UVID and your password, and you can start hitting these databases. Now what these databases are is they're electronic versions of journal article after journal article after journal article. So for example, a couple of journal articles that I have, or a couple of journals that I have. These are journals that I have that, as virtue of being members of these organizations, I'm a member of the AASP, the Association of Applied Sports Psychology. This is the Journal of Phenomenological Psychology, so as a phenomenological psychologist I can contribute to that. And then also like the Humanistic Psychologist, which being a member of Division 32 of APA, I get these publications as part of my membership, and what they have in them is they have research in them. They have research and theoretical articles and things like that, and you can see that in each one of these researches there's actually even a reference page. So these are really good resources to find different literature on things, because you can go to a reference page of something you find, and you can find more literature there and more cues on where to work toward finding things that you'll want to find. So anyway, on the back here on this particular journal is kind of a table of contents, and it can kind of tell you what's in there. And some of the journals on online in the databases and things like that, when you find the journal holding itself, it'll give you those kinds of tables of contents for a whole volume journal. But typically what you're going to find is article piece by piece with an abstract that tells you just a little bit about what that article is in general. Now an abstract is very similar to what our annotations are going to be, but our annotations need to be a little bit more purposeful and focused to our own research. So essentially what I want to see on your annotated bibliography is when you find a journal article or a book or something like that that you're going to use as part of your literature review and as part of your research proposal, I want you to list that down on a piece of paper just as if you were building a reference page. There's not much difference between what I want to see on a reference page and what I want to see on a bibliography, annotated bibliography. There's going to be two fundamental differences. First of all, the references on your bibliography all have to be in the same APA listing as they would be on a reference page, which means that they have to be in alphabetical order or according to date, and all of those things that guide us to creating a reference page for any kind of a scholarly report. Then I want you to turn all of those references that you have piece by piece. Each reference should be written correctly in APA and then bold font it so that it stands out to you. Now that doesn't mean that you bold font them in your research proposal or any other scholarly stuff that you do as an assignment. You only bold font them in your annotated bibliography so that they stand out to you a little bit more. Now the annotations between are going to be simple APA paragraphs. Now I put in the description that it's you block paragraph. You don't need to block paragraph. You can first line indent, or you can block paragraph and indent the whole paragraph if you like, whatever is best for you. But those annotations are going to be double spaced so that they're readable. And what you want to cover is basically a lot of the stuff that's in the abstract, and also put in some personal cues and things for you to know that when you refer to the annotated bibliography later, you know what that piece of literature is and how it's relevant for your research based on your annotation. So you don't have to go climbing through and reading the article again to try and find, now why did I find this article and what does it have to do with what I'm studying? That is already covered in your annotated bibliography in a little tiny summary that we call an annotation. So a synopsis, an abstract, an annotation, you know, a summary. All of those kind of things are essentially what we're looking for in the annotation. It's basically the same thing. It's a rundown of what method was used, what were the significant findings, how many people were used for the study, and what particular key definitions or things like that are relevant to your literature. I've had students in the past say, well, how many do we have to have? A whole 150 words in each annotation, or do we have to have 250 words? What you want to do is you want to have it brief enough that it's a snapshot usable thing for you, but if it's too brief that there's still questions that need to be asked, like, well, what kind of methodology was used here, or, you know, what was the sample size? Those kinds of questions need to be answered. What type of research, or that kind of thing. So your reference is your references, or your set of references are the bibliography, and then those annotations come non-bold fonted in a regular paragraph in between those. And what I want you to do to finish that is just to put an APA style cover page on that has your name, the course number, Utah Valley University, the date, and then my name on it, so that in the APA style, so that I, you know, if I download these and take them with me on a jump drive to correct, you know, outside of the Canvas or something like that, it'll be marked as your work and I'll know whose it is. So cover page, all of your lists of references bold fonted with an annotation between each one. So basically this assignment is going to be judged on how well the annotations seem to express what's important about that piece of literature, whether or not the reference that you've written out for that is in correct APA format and bold fonted, and do you have a cover page that is in APA format as well. So that's pretty much what the annotated bibliography assignment is. It's due, it looks like, just right at the first of the, I believe in the third unit of this class. So get that in on time, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me and or give me a call, and I'll sort the question out for you if I can. Thanks a bunch.